Welcome to It's Just Different podcast, where we bring on people who have been where you're trying to go and or have helped countless athletes get there. Y'all know we had to backdoor and do a part 2 because I told you. Today we with the man with the plan, Jason Key. What's going on?
Man, good, all good over here. Appreciate you having me.
Can you believe you are the first person to do a part 2?
Yeah, it makes sense to me, actually. Let me say, too, when we start off, I'm really proud of what you're building. You're doing a great job, really helping grow the game, connector in the business. I'm really proud of you.
I appreciate it. I
Bet.
appreciate it. And I appreciate all your support.
Mhm.
I call you, I text you. No matter what you're doing, you're going to answer. If you ain't got an answer, if you ain't got the number, you're going to find a number. You're going to give it to me. So I always appreciate
When you
that.
start making this money, I'm going to start charging.
Hey, I've been making the money.
I love it.
I've been making the money.
Charging it is, and
Did you know that I got 2 books? If you're looking for a good book to read, make sure you check both of them out at ashleyandroberts.com. One called The Little Girl with Big Dreams, about an ambitious little girl who overcomes every no to say yes to her dreams. And another called Changing Lanes, using sports as a vehicle to drive success on and off the court. We start this podcast off with something that's different. What do you think is different as it relates to AAU basketball and high school basketball?
right now there's a clearer divide than ever in terms of when I go to a game. Shout out Shane Laughlin. This is all something I picked up from him. The first thing I do is count college level and then D1 players on the floor. And because of the evolution of high school basketball and more kids are going to the prep school route and all that, when I go to a summer game full of D1 kids, you got D1 kids that don't even start, right? And on the bench, and then it varies from game to game, but in high school, 2 to 3 per team at most.
If that.
Yeah, if that. And so there's just a clear divide, and there's nothing wrong with playing for your city and the pride part of high school that comes with that. But in terms of talent on the floor and all that, there's just a divide between the summers and high schools that's always been there, but I think the gap is maybe widening a little bit.
Why do you think that?
As I said, I think a lot of that has to do with the change of prep school model, which started over on the boys' side. You know, when you look at it historically, in one sense, it's been around on the boys' side for 30 years, especially on the East Coast. But here in Texas in particular, on the boys' side, it's pretty recent, last 5+ years or so, that it's become a really big thing where the boys do it. And now we're seeing that trend on the girls. And I think that's it. I think, and I don't term necessarily Faith Family as, they're not a prep school in terms, like they're an established high school that's been around 20+ years and all that.
Right.
So they're not a traditional prep school, but they're sort of that in terms of their talent. And then obviously Legion, which is a prep school. And those kids are starting together at high schools, and that delineates the pool for the high school part.
High school basketball is down.
Yeah, I think I don't want to get negative. That's not my role, but I would say it's different. Yeah, so
I like that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. It's just different, right? There's nothing wrong with again, playing for your hometown and your friends and the traditional high school route. There's nothing wrong with that, and we're going to see elite kids that choose to do that.
Yeah.
Versus go to prep school, but we will see more and more gravitate towards that prep school model because of the things it provides: full-time basketball. Everybody around me takes it as serious as I do, and all that. So I just think we have to accept the change in the climate. And I know that's tough for you as a former Pantherette and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, we're also having, we're going to the double state champion model where there's 2 in each class. And so it's just like there's a changing of the guard in terms of prep school basketball. There's a changing of the guard in the way high schools will do things.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean it's bad.
Yeah.
It's just different. And people are going to have to adjust and get used to it.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like there's been a lot of conversations about this type of stuff.
my answer always changes in the sense of like I see both sides of it.
Sure.
I see the side of, just like you said, like, well, I'm gonna go back and say me personally, and I don't have a kid yet. I don't have any kids. So I really can't. You don't know what you would do until you was in that situation. But my thought process is, if I had a kid, my kid is playing public. Like, I want my kid to have the full experience of high school. I want my kid to be excited about prom, to do the different things that you can't do necessarily at a prep school, right? And you did say it's different, right? I still kind of believe in the stay where you play. Where if you in Duncanville, play for Duncanville, right? I believe in that. But I do see the other side.
For sure.
When we talking, and it's not legal now, but when you talking NIL, when you talking different things that these kids are preparing themselves for when they get to college and trying to get that NIL, that got to start in high school. So I do see that part of it, of playing prep and getting yourself ready. Like you said, playing with other kids who are serious, not just playing with a kid who just playing just because they go to that school.
Right.
So I see both sides.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's just, again, it's just a change in the climate. And the kids that want to go to a prep school model, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with you being serious about how you want to play the game and preparing for your future and all that. And there's also nothing wrong with going home and growing and doing it yourself. Different strokes for different folks. And again, that's fine. I also think in some ways, because of the transfer issues, specifically with Faith family, their hand was forced a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it was a reaction to how those kids who try to get in the right situation for them, they weren't going to be able to play if they stayed. And so it's a natural reaction to go, okay, well, we're going to go where we can stay, where we can play.
Yeah.
And so, I think in some ways their hand was forced, and this is where we are because of it.
Yeah, and let's talk about that for a little bit, because everybody probably don't even know what we're talking about.
Yep.
What I guess you can say, what happened with Faith family? Like, what was the issue?
If you look at it from the UIO prism, which I understand, they had anywhere from 13 varsity or 18 total sub-varsity kids transfer, although a couple of those kids in that 18 are freshmen, so they can't really transfer. But there was some back and forth about those young kids. So somewhere between 13 and 18 kids go to one school because a new coaching regime who was very successful at DeSoto decided to go to Faith Family, and these kids wanted to go there. Well, the thing about Faith Family is it's open enrollment, right? And what's funny about it is in non-athletics is Faith Family they have to recruit kids to get their state funding, right? So they have to have a certain population to make sure they meet the numbers and all that. So it's actually set up, now I'm talking non-athletics.
Right.
It's set up to recruit.
Right.
And then they recruit in athletics and get in trouble for it. So,
which don't,
recruit in their air quotes. But so kids decided to go to this school with a staff that has been hugely successful, won back-to-back state championships at DeSoto, won a previous state championship at Fort Worth Dunbar a generation ago. And in doing so, because of the amount, it raised a lot of eyebrows amongst would-be competitive schools or schools that lost kids.
Right.
Yeah, a little bit of both. And it went through the UIO, the district process, to the UIO, and they decided to suspend the coaches. Now, they were going to let the kids play probably until district. I mean, it never really got this far.
So they would have, maybe.
Yeah. We think, but we'll never know because they pulled out, and so they decided to go to TCAL, the same league that Legion's in, and join that league, and which allows them to play a national schedule, and now the coaches aren't suspended, all the things. So again, I just think I don't really blame the UIO for their decision. They did what was best for their league at the end of the day. And then,
but do you think so? Like,
no, would I have made that decision? No. Do I have a problem with them making the decision? It's their league.
Yeah.
Like they didn't call and ask my opinion.
Right.
and then I for sure don't blame Faith family for reacting the way they did. I think it was probably a very smart move long term.
Right.
But if it was up to me, yeah, do do I mind a kid transferring? Like the actually the situation that makes less sense to me, and I don't want to get kids in trouble or whatever, but a kid, I'll leave the names out of it to keep it
Yeah.
like that. But there was a kid that transferred from Duncanville to Lancaster. I think we all know who that is locally. There's another kid that transferred from Lake Highlands to Cedar Hill. I think we all know who that is locally. And I think their cases are still pending or whatever, but those are both seniors.
Right.
And they transferred to situations that are best in their eyes.
Best for them.
For them, in the eyes of them, their parents, both, however you want to look at that. And I don't agree with the fact that a kid shouldn't be able to transfer. You know, I always bring up the fact that if a kid transferred from Duncanville to Lancaster because they were having problems on the academic side, English
Everything is
department,
good.
history department, whatever, and it happened, nobody would raise an eyebrow. It happens all the time. I got to get my kid in a better situation because they're running with the wrong crowd. We all know people that have done that over the years, and because athletics aren't involved, nobody blinks an eye. Get athletics involved because it's competitive. Other people raise an eyebrow, and it becomes an issue.
Yeah.
And again, it's a little bit different with the Faith family because of the volume, because of the number of kids that were involved. So I can understand why that light was shown. I don't understand, particularly in the case of the Duncanville to Lancaster kid where the PAPF was signed.
That's what I was going
The
to say.
transfer form.
That's what I was going to say. That's the one thing that I'm still confused about. Like,
Yeah.
if the other coach, if the school that they're leaving signs off on it, what, like,
I'm not, neither one of us all the way understand
Yeah.
the legalities. We're not involved in it. I would say it's probably because somebody in the district raised their hand, which means it went to the district committee, which means they then brought up a case and went. That's my take on what happened, but I don't know for a fact. So I don't want to go too far, and then we're missing something we don't. There's something out there that we don't know, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so.
now that makes sense. Now, do you think with Faith family doing that, do you think a lot of other schools are going to start to follow suit?
No, I don't think. Well, no, because Faith family doesn't have football. So if you have football, it's harder to untie yourself from the UIL because of the scheduling piece. It's harder to find non-UIL football teams to play you.
That's a great point.
All that. So I think what made the process possible was the fact that there isn't a football involved in Faith family. It's a basketball school.
I didn't even think about that.
And then I think I don't want to get too far into it, but I think there was probably other reasons that they got unfairly, in my eyes, judged the way they did.
Yeah.
And so it is what it has to do with the boys' side. I think they
Yep.
layered the boys' side, so I think they took the hit for both sides.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
now, since we're talking about UIL, the divisions is something new.
yeah.
Now we got 2 champions.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Again, I'm not the biggest proponent of it as far as my opinion, because as you know, being at Duncanville and winning one, it's hard to win a state championship. Hard. That one. And so I thought in my eyes, it made it more meaningful because there was only one per class and all that. But what the argument would be towards the other side is now instead of 6, we have 12 because it's 2 in each class. Is if you look at state championships per school, because we have so many schools in Texas, it's still less than, I think it's like 90% of the country because of the volume of high schools. So it's not, because we're such a big state, it's just a new thing for the folks that have been used to competing at the very elite level. So your Duncanvilles and your DeSoto's and those kinds of schools that are knocking at the door the majority of the years. It's a new thing for the fans of those schools or the alumni, in our cases, that kind of thing. And so you just gotta, it is what it is, right? Like, I think the UIL is trying to be fair in terms of we've grown in schools and not amount of state champions, right? So we've population-wise, since we went from 5 to 6, so we only added one state championship because we went from 5A to 6A. I think we've grown almost double as a state, and so I think what they're saying is we've doubled the state, but it's still the same amount of state champions. So we're making it very next to impossible to do. And so, again, that's their eyes. And actually, at the end of the day, it's their call. It's their league. As I mentioned before with the other stuff, with the transfer stuff.
JK,
So,
I ain't gonna lie, I don't like it.
of course not.
Like,
if you're Duncanville folks are not going to like
we
it.
just need one champion.
Yeah.
Like, it just made me think, imagine if Duncanville and DeSoto was on two different, whatever.
It's in football.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
It's that way in football. And
Is
they
that-
compete. They compete. Generally there's a school out of Houston that's really good and that kind of thing. But typically, Duncanville wins big and DeSoto wins.
And that's what
the
I'm
small
saying.
success.
Like, if Duncanville's gonna win, I need to be claiming all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sharing with DeSoto. Like, and vice versa. I'm sure they don't want to share with Duncanville.
Yeah.
Like, we need one champion. But like you said, it's different, and it is what it is. And
Yeah.
ain't nothing nobody can do about it
That's right.
because that's what it is.
Yeah.
And we're gonna roll with these two divisions.
Yeah.
But I still don't like it.
There you go.
My
That's your
opinion.
right.
That's my right. But as we're on high school, like I said, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I just do think that high school basketball is down. But there's still a lot of good teams and there's still a lot of good players at the end of the day. What's your state projections?
It's you can't all the way quantify because you don't know what division.
That's true.
Who's going to be in? Like a specific example is Saginaw Boswell, who I'm very high on, Camille Williams and crew. I believe it's the fourth largest enrollment in their district. Well, Division I, Division II is based on, of the 4 teams in your district that make the playoffs, enrollment. The 2 largest schools go to the big, the 2 smaller schools go to the small. So they're right in the middle. So if 2 larger schools go, they'll go smaller. But if 2 smaller schools go, they go large. So there's no way to know until the end of district which way it's going to go for them. Because it's not up to them. It's because it's up to enrollment.
So none of the schools will know
until Duncanville will, because they're the biggest school in their district.
Right.
So they can only go to the larger enrollment one. But for those in the middle, you don't know until you figure out who makes the playoffs.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So just overall, to keep it simple that way, 6A, Saginaw Balls was the best team I've seen this far. Now, let's say they go large school and they got to play Duncanville. They would come out of Region 1. So first of all, they would probably have to be South Grand Prairie, who's been there in last couple of trips to the state championship and regional final. We saw that last year with Hebron. Hebron lost. Was I thought the best team in Region 1 for the majority of the year. Couldn't get past South Grand Prairie in the regional final. Or regional semifinal, wherever they met up.
Semis.
Yeah. So that experience factor matters with programs, like programs that have been there, coaches with Brian Raven, who have been there, that kind of thing. So, they would, in my eyes today, would probably have to get by South Grand Prairie if they're in the big school. And then let's say they meet a Duncanville or a Clearbrook. I don't even know where Clearbrook is within their district, but they really jumped out to me when I saw them in Lancaster. Shout out Marcus Sloan at his event in Lancaster.
Oh, I heard it was good.
Yeah, earlier this month. But say they ran into them or Cy Springs out of Houston. The thing about Saginaw Boswell is they haven't been there. And you don't know. It's different when
Are they young?
Camille obviously is not. They have 2 senior starters off the top of my head. Excuse me if I'm missing somebody. And then a sophomore junior crew behind them. But it's great to be the best team in the regular season. We've seen that traditionally over the years. That doesn't always equate to state championships. So I would take them today as the best team I've seen early in the year. And we'll see how they handle that pressure as the year goes on. And then it's particularly once we get to the playoffs, which they're in Sandra Meadows, so them and Duncanville could get a preview going there. And then we'll see when the lights are the brightest how it goes.
Yeah.
Because then you got to beat somebody. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be Duncanville. It could be a Clearbrook off the top of my head. It could be Aside Springs. I don't know their enrollment, where they are in their district exactly. So I don't know if they're big or little, any of that stuff. So, but somebody that's had a little more experience and all that, will they be able to overcome that hurdle? 5A. I have nobody's just jumped out to me yet, and I haven't watched a lot yet. We're just getting started.
Still early, yeah.
I would say the team you got to watch is Lubbock Monterey, because Chavez with Ambrosia Cole and that group. I mean, Chavez is a show. I know we'll talk about it a little bit later, but we got her playing Special K, Kalina Smith, Thanksgiving Hoop Fest Saturday night after Thanksgiving. But she's must-watch TV, right?
Yeah.
So she was a big reason I was here in Ireland, and not that I haven't seen Aaliyah Chavez 5,000 times, because I have, but she's entertaining to watch, right? So any high school basketball fan, she's a generational type player. She's one of these, Kennedy Carter a few years ago, on and on it goes that we've seen, but she's one of these kids that you got to see come through the state. Ariel Atkins.
Shout out to AA.
No doubt.
Ariel, one of them ones. I know everybody waiting to see where Aaliyah's going.
Yeah,
like,
interesting.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I think I don't think anybody outside of that family unit. Shout out Sonny and Aaliyah, but anybody that says they know outside that family unit,
they don't know.
And that includes me. I tell people I ain't even gonna try to guess. Like, I think it's interesting and it's fun. I'm interested too. And when does it go to the spring?
Yeah.
Like, it feels like that's where it's headed, right? But again, anybody that tells you they know, I wouldn't trust that. If their last name isn't Chavez and they don't live wherever their address is, those are the only folks that know. So no, I think she has obviously a lot of good choices. There's nobody in the country that wouldn't take her and all that. I don't think there's a wrong answer when you have an Aaliyah Chavez for her. It's just about what she wants to do.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm gonna backtrack a little bit, because we talked 6A, we talked 5A a little bit. We can't not forget about the 4As.
Yeah, I actually, it's interesting, because I heard somebody that didn't love Argyle earlier today that was talking to me in the 4A. I did. I think they're good. It's early in the season. Like, nobody has their stuff all the way figured out. Argyle jumps out to me early. That's probably the lead horse. I haven't seen a ton. I think Decatur's 3. I don't know what. I don't know if Decatur's 3 or 4A. So, but I saw them at the Argyle Tip-Off Classic a couple weeks ago. I really like that Decatur team.
Yes. They run their stuff.
They do.
They
got a super talented 28 point guard.
Yeah. That's Styles there, right?
Style Brazil.
Yeah.
Super talented.
Yeah. They can hoop. I've also enjoyed watching Lincoln.
Great point. Yeah, that's my bet on Lincoln. So Lincoln, and what a contrast of styles that would be. They're both in the same region, I believe, Region 2. Again, I don't know big school, little school. I don't know where they fall in line in their each in their district. But Lincoln is probably the best young team, full of 27, 28 prospects. So they're probably one of the more talented young teams in the state. And it would be a contrast of style. It would be Argyle's, I'll call it finesse game, but perimeter finesse game against Lincoln. Lincoln's an old school DISD, hard charging, team. Now they're young, and youth can show its head a lot of times, especially coming to playoffs and that. So I'm assuming if they're both in the same, again, we're all confused with the big school, little school. It used to be that their regionals would be in Commerce. So that would be one for that matchup. I probably would drive to East Texas if I'm here locally. So no, Dallas Lincoln, shout out to them, because they're really good. That's a really good young group.
Yeah. What you think about La Vega?
Yeah, so I think they're talented. I think they're finding their way without KP.
Different.
So without KP, they have Kalea Parr, who's a freshman at Wichita State.
Yeah.
She was kind of the head of the snake. I was talking to Marcus today, actually, about how it's the little things, right? She said tempo in warm-ups and in games, and they gotta learn to cultivate that tempo within themselves. And who that head's going to be and that kind of thing. So I think it's a changing of the guard, obviously because they lost their floor leader from last year. So it's different. I would suspect, knowing Marcus, like he puts them, you got to give him respect. He plays the toughest schedule of any sport. He finds anybody that'll play him, he want to play him. And so I would suspect come Sandra Meadows, you'll see them a little bit better than they are today.
Yeah.
And then coming out of that, and you see them again in March, and after they get through district play and all that, then they're better than they were at Sandra Meadows.
Yes.
That's typical Marcus Willis team.
Yeah, so, I tell him that every year, and it don't matter. Like
he'll play anybody.
Even though his team is different this year, that didn't change his schedule.
Yep.
At all.
Yep.
So I absolutely love that. Yes.
Shout out
to Marcus. Shout out to you. Now we don't. You brought up Camille. You brought up Style. Some 28s at Lincoln. Can we do a little top 10 players in Texas?
Yeah, you got. Man, I gotta think through this. You got obviously Chavez.
Yeah.
I almost gotta go to my list. I got cheat.
Yeah, you know you got it on the list though.
I do. Excuse me for cheating, but y'all gonna have to deal with me. All right. So you got to put Ayla McDowell in there. Obviously going to South Carolina.
Yeah.
Long wing. I think I don't think she's played her best basketball yet. So I think McDowell has a chance to really blossom after a couple of years. Now she's probably gonna have to be patient in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Fighting for minutes early, and can you get on the floor, especially her freshman year? But she'll be fine.
Yeah.
And she's won at every level, and she continues to get better. And again, I think her best basketball is in front of her. You got to go L.A. Sneed.
She's one of my favorite point
L.A.
guards.
Sneed is like, I call her Chris Paul, and I know not everybody loves the male NBA comparisons, but she's heady, makes everybody better. Another kid that LA's done nothing but get better and win her entire life, right? And so I would put LA in that category. And then Camille Williams, who we already mentioned, I've always liked Camille. She's always been talented. I thought she took it to another level this summer. So shout out Taylor, who was at Pro Skills now at IFN and all that, but they were a hell of a connection.
Yeah. Are you looking for film review, film breakdown sessions, consultations, or even ebooks to help guide you through this thing called basketball? Well, I got you covered. Make sure you visit AshleyAnnRoberts.com for all your basketball needs.
Yeah. I want to stop you real quick on Camille, and then we'll finish that.
Yep.
But what do you think was the biggest, besides obviously you said her and Taylor was a good connection, what in her game do you think was the biggest switch?
I think the poise piece of her, which she had, but I thought as the summer went on, she trusted herself more decision-making wise. I thought early on, she didn't know if she wanted to score or facilitate and all that, and she found that balance. Like, I can do both. I can score, facilitate, and I thought Taylor brought the best out of her. And I think it's a testament to kids both on the high school and club ball level that go to the right fit. It doesn't. Taylor and them, I didn't think this team was ever going to win the EYBL. Cy-Fair was more talented within our own state, much less the country, right? And shout out for Cy-Fair for the national championship, Earl Allen.
Yeah.
Camille went to the best place for her.
Yeah.
She had to make the decisions. She had to set people up. She had to run the team. And she grew in that role because of it. If she goes to another program, she may not have the ball in her hand making the decisions. So it's not always about the wins and losses. Like everybody's, it's a little bit different. In her case, she individually grew because of her role.
Fit matters.
Fit's a big deal, right? In the 20, so because we're capping it at 10, I'm gonna stop there at the 25. So this is what I do, so it is what it is. JC Abbey, you could argue that along with Chavez, if you wanted to take her long term as number one, I could understand your argument there. Obviously hurt, and we'll see her once she gets back from the injury and all that, but the versatility, the strength, 6 foot, playing on the perimeter, best basketballs in front of her, a lot like Ayla, but already at an elite level, right? Played on the USA basketball team, like done all the things. So JC Abbey, you got to put in there. Bella Flemings, who I think is the best shooter in the state, amongst the elite kids specifically. Just a bucket.
Yeah.
Just a bucket. And elite frame as far as strength. I mean, I call her a grown woman.
Yeah.
Right? That's a grown woman with a real 3-ball.
That's a fact.
Leave her open if you want to.
That's a fact.
And super smart, has her own podcast.
Yep.
Has that same vibe you got going
Yes.
of growing her own brand and all that kind of thing. And so I think she's super intelligent. You can see she's forward thinking in the way she's moving. And obviously on the floor, a bully with the 3 balls, tough. I think you got to throw, I'm going to throw them both in there, but Amari Biles and Kamara Pruitt.
Okay.
Biles has had a really good last 4 to 6 months, I would say. I think taking that next level and just embracing physicality and rebounding and the sometimes the dirtier things, right? And so I think Biles is really progressing. And then Pruitt's super talented. The 3 ball's gotten better. She obviously has elite length. And she's going to be really, she's going to be really interesting to see where she goes fit-wise and all that, because she's a bucket, right? And if she goes to the right spot that highlights her ability to score with at that size, and can use some mismatches where she can play on the perimeter to get by some other 4s and wings and that kind of thing, she could have really blossom
Yeah.
at the next level. All right, and we got 27s.
Why are you doing that? I wanted to find Bella. I was trying to find it, but I can't find it. I think Bella Fleming's podcast is On the Journey. I hope I'm right with that, but make sure y'all follow that. I believe it's On the Journey.
All right, 27, so we're at about 8. I'm going to go just a little bit over the 10.
Okay, we can do that.
But 27's Gemini Mitchell.
Oh, you got to put her in
Yeah,
there.
Swiss Army knife. You know what I was really impressed with was playing on a national championship level, 17U team, with obviously Chavez as your lead, and like you had Anaya Foy, and like the whole team is high level. Bella Hines, and on it goes. She found a way to make an impact, and so she was the young pup on the team and all that. But like she had vital moments, particularly in Chicago as they were chasing the national championship. And like it's hard when you don't play, when you're playing, let's call it 20 to 25 minutes max, and probably less than that. Like I'd have to go look at that numbers. But when you're playing 20-ish minutes, it sometimes can be hard, especially for a young player, to get a rhythm. And I was impressed with the fact she just came in when she got her minutes and figured out how to play.
She was hooping.
Right? So very good player. Finley Chastain, shooter. Shout out to Finley. I hear she's about to be back on the floor.
Okay.
After coming off, I had a little bit of a leg injury there, but she's about to be back on the floor. And along with Bella, the second best shooter in the state, and Finley, if you want to go get her, go get her. But they're in different classes anyway, it don't really matter. But Finley can absolutely shoot it, and super heady in terms of super smart. Like she I know she doesn't look the part of a traditional point guard because she can shoot, but she can play point guard.
Yeah.
A lot of people miss that about her. Very smart. And I'm gonna put these last 2 in together, and and then I'll shout out a couple 28s. But locally, Jazz Bailey, Samari Holman. Both of them, pick your favorite. Both of them produce. Jazz Bailey, ultra quick, lightning fast, athletic downhill, 3 balls improving. I've always been a big Jazz Bailey fan. Very, very athletic. I think her ceiling's super high. And then Samari Holman. You know, it's a funny story, but we were in Oklahoma, me and Ed Dennis. I think Samari was in 6th grade.
Yeah.
Like it was babies playing. And Ed's like, who is that? And I started watching too, and I was like, man, that kid could go.
In the
right?
6th grade.
In the 6th grade. And so she was guest playing with the out-of-state team, and they, through Ed, Ed went and introduced himself. You know, he'll talk to anybody. Shout out Ed Dennis. And so introduced himself, and then brought him over to me, and they were thinking about club things, and I just called Gatewood, because I was like, she could probably play for Gatewood's 8th, 9th grade team. and she goes out and he plays her up and off it went, right?
Wow.
And so all the things. So I've known her for a super long time, just randomly, just because of that whole story
That's
right there in
crazy.
Oklahoma. So I knew her along with Ed Dennis. We knew her like before anybody type thing by pure luck.
Yeah.
And just watching her growth and then win that state championship, be a part of that Duncanville tradition last year, and she's got the Pantherette vibe to her and all that kind of stuff. So super talented.
Yeah.
And then just a couple young pups to know. There's a lot of really good 28s. We mentioned Style Brazil, the point guard Sanaya Grigsby out of North Mesquite.
Like
she's got it. She's got it. So super young. I love that she wears her real glasses still. Like that literally fits her because she don't know what she don't know.
Yeah.
She's out here playing. But she was really good at my best of the best, the 3-on-3 with elite. That was national kids. I thought that was her first time playing like that level because she played Texas U. Shout out Rich Anderson. She played on his 15U team. And that's a great, actually that's a great caveat.
Yeah.
Here's a kid that played 15U. Didn't play way up too early.
Wait, you saying that and I'm pretty sure she got offers. You saying she didn't play 17?
Of course. And she played 15s. It allowed her to grow. She just played. She had a lot of responsibility, got a lot of reps, a lot of playing time. And on our level, she made our ESPN national watch list, the national watch list. She won, to your point, that's off a 15U team.
Yeah.
But she went 8, and she learned a lot. And they didn't rush her.
Yes.
That whole trust the process thing, it's a real thing. It's a
hey,
real
you better
thing.
Speak it. It's a real thing. You
For
better
sure.
speak that.
My personal favorite in the 28 class, there's 2 of them actually. One's a big, one's a guard. KK Azumba. Listen, y'all better listen to me at Faith Family. I think she has the chance to be a top 5 to 10 national kid down the line. We'll see where that goes. Super smart, 6'4 plus, 6'3, 6'4 plus. Finishes. Once again, she played junior EYBL. She didn't play, just because she's big, she didn't go play 15U or 16U on her way to 17U, and maybe she'll skip up a couple steps. She played 14U as a 28, and got it, and got a lot of touches, got the ball, and why rush? Why rush? Another one where development, just let them develop sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody has a different path. And if you're ready to play up, no problem with that. But if you're not ready, you don't have to.
Yeah. And sometimes you can be ready, but like you just said, those two.
It's about touches early too.
Because they could play up.
But would you rather her play 10, 15 minutes? Or would you rather her play 25 minutes and be on her back?
Exactly.
Yep. And then lastly, Ariana Robinson playing the East.
Ooh, that's a dog there.
Best guard in the state for my money. There's some really good young ones down in Houston in particular, play for Software, over at Kincaid. And but Robinson is a multifaceted, can play the 1 or the 2 in my opinion. Strong, already got like a college body as a freshman in high school. Super smart. Is just coming out of her shell all the way. I suspect she's going to have a real blossoming year in high school. And so that shows you, too, you don't have to be at a prep school because a lot of the kids I just named, some of them, again, Faith Family is not a true prep school, but some of them were at Faith Family. J.C. Abbey would be at Legion. KP is at Legion. But a lot of them
are
at public schools, and they're leading the way. And so, again, there's no right or wrong answer to that.
Yeah, they are. And before we move on, I do want to make sure I correct that. It's the Journey podcast, because that was going to eat me up if I said it wrong. Bella Fleming's podcast is the Journey podcast.
Shout out Bella, doing a tremendous job.
Yeah, she is. I saw Special K get her deal, Adidas, moving on to Adidas. What's your thoughts on that?
First of all, good for her. And as a state, in Texas, we need to catch on. We need to let it go. I don't think. I think it's. I don't like the fact, if she didn't want a deal, that's one thing. But I don't like the fact that Chavez doesn't have the option to have an NIL deal.
Absolutely.
She's carried the state. Like she packs gyms, and so Aaliyah Chavez should reserve the right to have a NIL shoe deal if she wanted one. And in the future, those kind of kids, top of the country kids that come from the state may very well go. If we stay the way we are today, may go to another state so that they can collect
So
their
you think
money.
they will?
I
mean,
would.
if it's me, I was gonna
If
say,
it was my kid, they would.
We out.
Yeah. I mean, why would my? And I don't know the amount of money, but even if it's low five figures, if it's $10,000, that's $10,000 more than we got.
Yep. To
So,
do something I'm already doing.
yeah, to go to do what I'm doing here. So, like, I think if you want to hold on to these kids within the state, we're gonna have to change that rule, and that doesn't just go for girls basketball. I think that goes for football.
Yeah.
Which will lead change, right? It's
Yeah.
too big of a sport in this state. But basketball, boys basketball, you're starting to see it. Kids are having to go to prep schools, Link Academy in Missouri, or Compass in Arizona, or obviously Mount Bird and those guys in Florida, so they can collect because it's legal in those states. Grind prep, it's legal in Oklahoma, and so Mackenzie Matheron's got NIL deals, right? Comes to mind in Oklahoma, and
already.
Yeah,
I didn't know that
because it's legal, and
wow.
I think it's businesses versus shoe deal.
But it's
money.
It's money. I was just saying,
and
it's
like
money.
Aaliyah Chavez deserves the right. She carries us. Like I came today
because
she was the magnet. Like I'm here, and so other people are capitalizing off of her. Within the high school realm, they charge customers today to go in the tournament.
Right.
Yada yada yada. And so she deserves the right to collect if she chooses, because that's now legal in other places.
Yeah.
And if we don't, we're gonna lose kids.
We're gonna lose kids.
That's just a fact.
We're gonna lose kids.
But in terms of going back to the Adidas deal and whatever, not knowing the negotiations behind the scenes of if other shoes were involved, which I would think they were for Special K and all that, good for her. She's special. She's the 2027 version of Aaliyah Chavez, right? And so she deserves everything coming her way, and good for her for collecting. And again, not knowing the ins and outs of who all was on her and all that, but big win for Adidas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
who Adidas has been a huge supporter, from Candace Parker to there's been a lot of Adidas clientele over the year. Mariah Jefferson, on and on it goes. So they've been a huge supporter in the background of women's basketball for quite a while, and this is just a long line of that.
I love it, man. Now,
no doubt.
Speaking of Special K, speaking of Aaliyah, I'm excited.
Yeah,
we got a matchup coming.
Yeah, so we're just gonna touch on something. We're not gonna get too in depth about it because I didn't write it, right? But we just had a Shane. My man Shane Laughlin,
shout out to Shane.
Just had a pro projection article is what it was basically. And
I'm gonna stop you right there real quick. You talking about the top 12 prospects?
Yeah.
I know we're not talking about the list in a sense, but can you talk about what it actually is? Because some people thought that was like a ranking.
So it says regardless of class, and it lists them in order, so it looks towards rankings. But if you read, as Shane said multiple times on there, if you actually read it, it is that it is projections versus rankings. So when you talk about pro projection over production. So when we do class rankings, when Aaliyah Chavez is number one, well, Aaliyah Chavez just went and won the EYBL as the lead player. Aaliyah Chavez has been carrying the torch. She won another EYBL championship with Justice Carlton 2 years ago, right? And so it is production times projection. Like they're both there. This is like all the way just projection.
Got it.
And it's WNBA, not college. And as you can attest to, there's levels. You go high school to college, the boards erase, you start all over. All the numbers we put by your name, that don't mean nothing.
Yeah, that's
it's gone.
Fact.
And then you play. Same thing for the W. So then the best college players get drafted or they go to the W, all that kind of thing. And then the numbers erased and you start all over again, right? And this is just looking forward. And that doesn't mean that Aaliyah doesn't end up back at number one. As we said, it's an ever-evolving thing. That's where we stand today based on a lot of things. And I want you to know there was a lot of conversations, too, with high-level GMs, WNBA head coaches. There was input from all sources as I listened to Shane vet it, right? Shane called me, and I basically listened. We battled back and forth, and that's the list he came up with at the end of the day. So, but anyway, both of those two are on the list. They're very high on the list. It's a matchup we all want to see. They're the two best with the ball in the country in their hands, and they're going to go at each other's throat because they both, by way they're built, they both want to be the queen of the hill. They both want to be. That's who they are. And so, Aaliyah. Here's the thing about Aaliyah. Her dad, Sonny, called me 5th, 6th grade. He wanted to find out how good Aaliyah was. Like he knew she was skilled. How good is she really going to be? Believes in her as all dads do, but he was fair about it. Like, let's go. Let's see what we got. And from my role of it, especially young, I matched her up with anybody I could. Anybody. It started with Dallas kids. It went to state kids. Went to a little bit of the country, and then she grew to the EYBL. That has nothing to do with me, obviously, all that, and yada, yada, yada. I haven't seen anybody get her yet.
Yeah.
Like, she answers the bell.
As a 5th grader.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. And so to her credit, as far as my part early, for the little bit I had involved with it, to all the way to this day, the EYBL championship now, and we all want her to go win a state championship because I think we want to see her crown her career.
Yes.
Right, as one of the all-time greats in the state. And she's an all-time great in the state, whether she wins the state championship or not. I just think we all want her to win one. But having said that, she absolutely has. She's never not answered the bell, ever. And so, and won the vast majority of her matchups. Right. The only thing left for her is a state championship. It's the only thing she hasn't done in terms of winning, and that means a lot. So when we make her the #1 player in the country, that's valuable within that. That's valued within the list was projection based, right? So different. So anyway, so all that to say, these are two very good players. Special K ain't done a whole lot of losing herself.
Yeah.
She got upset in the semifinals against Colorado, right?
Was it?
Or was it the quarters?
Dang, who did they lose to?
I thought they lost to Colorado.
MWP?
And then Colorado went to the final. You're right.
I think they lost to Mount West Premier.
Yeah.
Okay.
I said Colorado. I was thinking their old name used to be Colorado Premier.
Yeah.
And they switched it to Mountain West Premier. But yes. So they lost to Mountain West Premier, and we were looking for this matchup that didn't happen. And Glenn probably was thankful because now he gets it. Now he might have went round 2, but now he went round 1 for it, and it's a matchup. And they might have met in the regular season somewhere. I just know they didn't meet in Chicago.
Right. Yeah.
Right. They could have met along the way, and I'm forgetting. But yeah, obviously that's the main event on the girls' side. It'll be. It's going to be packed. It's going to be a packed house. So I'd go ahead and get your tickets now. Shout out Thanksgiving Hoop Fest and Glenn Smith and all he's done for the game. But I'd get the tickets now because it's going to sell out. There's no question.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
No doubt.
Speaking of Hoop Fest, now we got that. That's the matchup. We also got a rematch.
Yep.
We got Duncanville and Etiwanda.
Yeah. So both lost some senior leadership. Kenny Smith's already hooping at USC.
She doing her thing.
For Etiwanda, killer. So we got to see who steps up. We just had name escaped me. Committed to LSU. Grace Knox committed to LSU. We have Puff Morris committed to Cal. So they do bring back a lot of talent. And then same with Duncanville. We lost a lot of senior leadership over there, and you can feel that they're younger.
Yeah.
Right? We got Jazz Gibson. Shout out Jazz, who her head coach just left
Atlanta
for the
Dream.
W. So it'll be interesting to see what Jazz decides to do with all that. For those that don't know, the head coach of Florida Gulf Coast just left for the Atlanta Dream. He left for the WNBA. And so we'll see what that group does. It's a big stage. It's a big stage for Samari Holman.
Yeah.
For Cece.
Got my girl Tristan over there.
She's going to play Puff. I would imagine she'll get matched up with Puff. So we'll find out where she's at, right? And I know Samari's ready to prove on the national stage exactly who she is. Yeah. Not that she isn't already very good, but she's ready for that next step.
Yeah. No, I think it's gonna be good. What other matchups are you looking forward to seeing?
Man, just really a cross section of teams. I think that we may, with I want to make sure that none of the matchups change before I speak on that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a good point.
Because I think with a couple things in the background going on, it may happen. But Faith Family's going to get a great matchup somewhere.
Okay.
We'll see who that is and if that changes. But Faith Family, I think, has a chance. I think we're going to debut them top 10 to 15 in the country. That comes out next week. Our ESPN national rankings, team rankings. First segment. A lot of teams don't start till December 1st, so we're just now getting going. A lot of the states don't start till
Right.
December 1st. So I think, as always, we're going to have teams from all across the country come. It's going to be loaded. So it's going to be great.
Yeah. No, I can't.
All
I
of
can't
us.
wait.
It's the best basketball event of the year.
Yeah.
No doubt. It's the best high school basketball event of the year.
What about? Have you? You ain't. Well, you probably ain't even looked at the boys matchups, huh?
No, I only care about one, and that's Duncanville versus Bishop McNamara. Bishop McNamara is coached by Joe Wooten. For those that don't know, Wooten is the guy from the big Wooten camp in Vegas every year. He is the head of the McDonald's All-American Committee. Like, he's the real deal, and so he's coming to see me.
Yeah.
He's never played in Duncanville. He's talked about that. He's very excited. So that's the only one that I know of off the top of my head, and that is going last Saturday night. That's going right after Chavez.
Oh, that's gonna be the last game.
The very last game is going to be Duncanville, and it's always a packed house when
Yeah.
Duncanville boys are playing at home.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. I'm excited to see all these high school athletes as they continue to grow, and some of these 25s.
Yeah.
Like you just talked about, Edawanda Kennedy.
Yep.
I literally watched her, and then watching her kill it
Yep.
at USC. So I'm excited to see that. As we end, I want to end with some college. What colleges have surprised you?
Man, first and foremost, Harmony Turner put up 41 tonight. WNBA draft board, here we come. Harmony,
Shout out to Harmony.
Like what her path, her story, choosing to go to Harvard, staying at Harvard through her freshman year was COVID, so they didn't even play. I believe she had the school from home, if I remember right, because I think they shut campus down or something. I could be off on that, but it was something along those lines I remember. Like, it would have been very easy for her to transfer out of there.
Yeah.
And I think 95% of kids
would have
went. And to watch her stick it out, and then she's fought through some injuries throughout her career a little bit, and to see her fully healthy and just hooping, putting up 41 tonight. I think she's a WNBA draftable kid. So we're gonna start that. I already put it out on Twitter today.
Yeah.
After her 41 and all that. So shout out to her. I just came back fresh from Oregon. Shout out to the Oregon staff for the hospitality, but I went to Baylor, Oregon, and then Jason Burton in North Texas was up there Tuesday as well. Baylor, Oregon's probably the best game so far early in the season. Back and forth game.
That was a 2-point.
2-point.
Okay.
Yeah. Oregon by 2. I think it was 72-70 if I remember right. Baylor, and it was good to see Bella Fauntleroy only play 1 minute because I think it was an ankle. I couldn't tell. Something. I saw that she played tonight. So obviously it wasn't major, it was precautionary, but good for them to get back fully healthy a little bit. Baylor's going to be really good. Like, that's just an early season loss in a tough road spot with a team you got no scout on because they're all brand new at Oregon. Like, Deja just got there, Amina Muhammad just got there, on and on it goes. But Baylor, watch out for Baylor long term. I think they got a real shot at winning the Big 12 and then making a deep tournament run. I went and saw Washington against Pacific earlier last week. And for those local fans that know Tina Langley, who was at Rice before Washington, won a lot at Rice, her team's getting older. And when she was at Rice and started beating on people, when she gets older and experienced, she gets real good. And so their core last year were freshmen and sophomores. Those are now sophomores and juniors, and you see it starting to click.
Yeah.
And so they're going to be really good. Across the country, I think it's interesting. I think the Notre Dame backcourt.
That Notre Dame backcourt.
Like, watching it all play out and all that. But obviously they're as talented as anybody in the country. Texas should have high hopes.
Shout out to my Longhorns.
Oh, no doubt. With Booker and Rory and the crew. I really think Betts, Lauren Betts has looked really good early at UCLA.
Yep.
They're really good. Of course, you got Juju. Shout out to Yo. That Ole Miss USA game was great. Yo and them gave them problems.
Yes, they did.
Shout out to both of our girl Imp, who's
Yeah.
now at
Shout
Ole
out to
Miss.
him, Duncanville Pantherette.
No doubt. And so, but UCLA looks really good. Betts in particular, and she's the best big in the country, in my opinion. And so they look really good. South Carolina, same old with Don. We have an event Sunday. Have a college event tied up with Glenn Smith. I believe it's Sunday.
December 8th.
I believe it's Sunday, December 8th. I believe that's right.
Let me check that.
And that's that'll be at Dickies Arena. That is going to be South Carolina versus TCU. And I'm telling y'all, this Sunday actually is TCU NC State here in Fort Worth. But I'm telling y'all, watch out for Sedona Prince. And I know there's a lot of media stuff going that went on this offseason about her, but she's a unicorn.
Yeah.
Yeah. 6'6", 6'7", and skilled. And so I'm really interested in the South Carolina TCU game we got coming up, along with the TCU NC State game coming this Sunday.
Some good basketball.
No doubt. So, man, I appreciate it. Appreciate the time.
This was amazing, as always.
Oh, yeah.
As always. I start the podcast off with what's different in the game. I like to end with the person. What will be different about Jay Key within the next 3 to 5 years?
Not a damn thing. We keep doing what we do, right?
The work is the work.
Yeah, man. It's not even work to me. Like, I love it so much that this is what I do. I don't stop, and but I don't look for accolades or none of that stuff. Like, whatever comes my way, great. What doesn't, wasn't meant for me. Nothing bothers me along those lines. And so I just want to continue helping people, help grow the game. As you know, like, I grew up around both Duncanville girls and boys basketball specifically. Somewhere around 1979, 1980 was my first girls game as a little kid. So I've seen this game come a long way in almost 45 years now. Like, I've seen a lot of changes. And so continue to watch the involvement, watching these high school kids now starting to get their money is nuts, but it's great for them, right?
Absolutely.
Watching the changes in the game, and that's why I roll with the changes, is because I've seen so much change.
Yeah.
It's not new to me. Like, I've seen a lot of the way the game's evolved, and it's going to continue to. Like, there's going to be more changes come that we don't see, that we're not thinking of today, and we'll be here to help it.
Yeah, and it'll just always be different.
No doubt.
Let's see. Your camera right there.
Yep.
You're going to look in that camera.
Okay.
What advice would you give to parents as it relates to recruiting?
Biggest piece of advice, actually there's a couple things, but the biggest one is trust the process. And I know that's so easy for me to say on the sidelines, and I'm not the one sitting out here sweating, worrying about no offers and that kind of thing. But if you will truly just invest in yourself, and the kids invest in themselves, and parents invest in your kid, and just put the time in, it always works out. Always. And so don't let people press you. Don't let social media posts by others. The comparison's the thief of joy. Don't let the social media game of worrying about what others have and you don't get you down. Like, just fall in love with the process of getting yourself better, taking care of yourself, having great habits, and opportunity will knock. I promise you.
We can't end it no better than that.
Yep.
That was it. Y'all, make sure y'all follow the podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow on Apple, Spotify. If you're not following the page on Instagram, I really don't know what you're doing at this point. Follow the page. It's just different pod.
Yes, y'all been asking, and we got it. The online store is available. We got sweatshirts, we got t-shirts, we got tights, we got shorts, we got headbands. We got it all. Make sure you check out the online store at itsjustdifferentapparel.com and use code podcast to get 10% off.